All right, guys, I will give folks a minute to filter in here. We've got multiple confirmed tornadoes already having moved through parts of Missouri. And we've got one in particular that I'm keeping an eye on heading towards Rolla, Missouri. And so I do want to talk about that. And then I will get into the forecast as we work throughout the rest of the evening and into the overnight hours and what we're going to expect across the rest of the Ohio Valley. Guys, to be honest, this is just getting started in terms of the severe weather threat today. And so, again, severe weather right now across Missouri, across Iowa. We've had activity beginning to build across Arkansas as well. I'm going to turn on the Clarity platform here so you all can have a look at what we are seeing right now. And you can see all of the different boxes and colors here. These orange boxes are severe thunderstorm warning, guys. You can see here, this one in particular, we're seeing winds of 70 mph, 2.5-inch diameter hail. But I want to turn your attention, is actually now has taken off the confirmed tornado. So no longer a confirmed tornado with this, but we do have a tornado warning, a radar indicated tornado warning heading right towards Rolla, Missouri. You can see that it was confirmed here just to the south and to the west. We just saw a new warning pick up right here near Salem, Missouri. We do have another tornado warning heading towards Montgomery City, Missouri. You can start to see this is starting to work closer and closer to the St. Louis metro area. And if we zoom out here, guys, you can see that we're getting more activity developing down here across northern parts of Arkansas as well. I would expect that these storms will continue to intensify as they push further off to the north and to the east. And so if you're across central and southeast Missouri, northern Arkansas, eventually western Tennessee and western Kentucky, and southwestern Illinois, you're going to be in the bullseye in terms of this bigger tornado threat, this bigger damaging wind threat as we work over the next several hours. So thank you guys again for tuning in. Be sure to like and to share this. I will get to the simulated radar and the forecast for Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky here in a few moments. But again, I did want to start out with this tornado warning, these tornado warnings, if you will, across central parts of Missouri to give you an idea of what we're going to be seeing over the next few hours. And so if we turn on the radar here, you can see these storms moving to the north and to the east. And the one that I want to keep a very, very close eye on for the St. Louis metro area is this one near Rolla, because the southwest to northeast nature of this would kind of take it right towards the St. Louis metro area within the next hour or two. And so certainly have some concern here as we work further into the evening. 7:40 Central right now, probably 8:40 Central time in terms of this starting to work into the area with warnings being issued. I certainly do have some concern for this major metro area within the next hour or two. Again, guys, I will get to your questions, but I do want to give you folks an update. We've got folks watching out in Missouri and Iowa as well. I want to give them an update of what's going on, and then I will get to the simulated radar. Further to the north, we've got severe winds, 70 mph winds. What's crazy about this system is, the radar doesn't look all that impressive, but the wind energy is so intense because of how strong the low pressure system is. We've got winds of 70 miles per hour with these storms from northern Iowa all the way through Waterloo, through Burlington, down towards Quincy, Missouri. You can see just a very, very expansive area of damaging winds right now from southern Minnesota all the way into northern parts of Arkansas. And again, where we expected the higher tornado threat to be, we're now seeing those tornado warnings pop up across central and southern Missouri. Would not be shocked to see more of that here across northern Arkansas over the next couple of hours. With that being said, I'm going to look at the severe threat throughout really the duration of this storm. We actually saw the moderate risk be expanded all the way down towards Jackson, Mississippi. And so some of these areas down here going to have 2 days worth of this really, really notable severe weather threat. This is one of the biggest moderate risk areas. That's a 4 on a scale of 5 in terms of severe weather. One of the biggest moderate risk areas that I've seen in a long time, spanning from Iowa to Louisiana, really. I do think activity is more isolated down here, Jackson, Tennessee, and Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Tennessee. I do think the most widespread activity is right here, kind of near the St. Louis area, southern Missouri, western Kentucky. You can see, if we zoom into the Ohio Valley here, this moderate risk area extends basically to the state line. So Evansville to Vincennes to Terre Haute, and points to the west. That is where your biggest threat for severe weather is going to be. As the storms push further east, note how the scale weakens. The orange is a 3 out of a 5, an enhanced risk. The yellow is a slight risk, a 2 out of a 5. And the green is a 1 out of 5 risk. And so the expectation is as these storms move towards the central part of Indiana, central Kentucky, and eventually into Ohio, that they will be weakening. And so we've talked about that in our previous live updates. I don't really have any change to that idea as things stand right now. Looks like we do have a new tornado watch that has just been issued that our team just sent me. So I do want to highlight that real quick before we get into the simulated radar while we have this up. And so a new tornado watch has been issued. Let me turn back on the current radar. This is across southwestern Indiana, western Kentucky, southern Illinois, western Tennessee, all the way down towards Mississippi. And this is a particularly dangerous situation tornado watch, which means the ingredients are, I would say, on the extreme side of things in terms of the tornado potential in these areas. And so if we click on this tornado watch here, you can see here all of the counties, all of the areas that have been issued this tornado watch. Again, this is a PDS tornado watch, a particularly dangerous situation tornado watch, highlighting the risk of a couple of violent tornadoes possible as the system continues to get its act together. And so, for those of you asking about Indiana, the highest risk is southwest Indiana, Evansville to Owensboro, Kentucky, to Paducah, out toward Poplar Bluff, Missouri. This is going to include Memphis, Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee, all the way into northern parts of Missouri. And so we don't get these types of tornado watches every day. It's strong verbiage from the Storm Prediction Center. And so certainly concerned about these storms continuing to intensify as they push further off to the east. With that being said, guys, here is a look. With that being said, here is a look at the simulated radar as we go throughout the rest of the evening. Now, I do want to make the note. I think that the simulated radar here, guys, could potentially be a half an hour to 45 minutes too slow. We've kind of talked about how data has been a little bit too slow with the simulated radar as we've gone throughout the system. And so this says 10 p.m. Eastern time. I would speed that up maybe to 9:30. We'll say 9:30 Eastern time here, 8:30 Central. You can start to see the activity approaching the St. Louis metro area. Certainly by 10 p.m., 9:30, 10 p.m., we're getting the activity to roll right through the St. Louis metro area in terms of central time, if you will. And you'll note some of the supercells still here down to the south. And this is where I think, from St. Louis to Farmington, probably down towards Jonesboro and Little Rock, all of these areas I am concerned about supercell risk, tornado risk, damaging wind, very large hail. Some of these storms have reported baseball-sized hail. And so, Saints, really, I would say Springfield to St. Louis down towards Little Rock, Arkansas, you are right in the thick of things as we get towards about 10 p.m. Central Time. As we continue to go out throughout the rest of the evening, this is by midnight Eastern to about, 11:30 Eastern, we'll say. Based off of speeding this up a little bit, you can see here, guys, this is still a gnarly line of storms. And, I think widespread damaging wind risk from Bloomington to Springfield to St. Louis. You can see this line extending all the way down into northern parts of Louisiana. And then as we get further to the east, as this approaches the state line, Illinois-Indiana state line, this is going to be about 1:30 a.m. Eastern time. And so, guys, the threat for Indiana really doesn't even pick up until 2 a.m. or after. Now, I will say the latest trends on the model data have kept this line a little bit more aggressive further east than what they were doing earlier this afternoon. And I do think that it's worth monitoring those trends. Not necessarily in terms of tornadoes, but I think in terms of wind. I still think that at this time, at about 2 a.m. Eastern time, I think that the biggest tornado threat is Southwest Indiana, Western Kentucky, and Southeast Missouri. As we continue to go through the overnight, this is by about 2:30 a.m. or so. Again, speeding up the simulated radar by about a half an hour. This is when activity will start to approach central Indiana. You will still note activity a little bit messy in nature, getting a little bit messier in nature with time. I would say still a little bit more aggressive down across Western Kentucky, Western Tennessee, but starting to break up in terms of intensity across central Indiana. But guys, there's still some strong to severe embedded thunderstorms here by about 3:30 to 4 a.m. Eastern time. And if we turn on the future max wind gusts here, guys, as we go throughout the overnight hours, we can click around here and see that wind gusts of over 60 miles per hour, especially for western parts of the state, on the table. As we go throughout the rest of the morning, guys, this is through 7 a.m., you can see not quite as intense further to the east, but some localized wind gusts of 60, 70 miles per hour across central Indiana. Not out of the picture, not out of the picture, but it is a little bit more scattered, with this line mainly producing 50 to 55 mile per hour winds. So I think the moral of the story here, guys, for Indiana, which I know is what a lot of you are asking about, and I will try to address some questions here in a moment. The moral of the story, if we go back to our threat map, we go back to the severe weather risk map, turn off alerts real quick so it's a little bit easier to see. If you are in the red area, on the map, so find your city, find your county. I'm not going to be able to answer everyone. I wish that I could, but I can't because we've got people all over asking. If you're in the red area, this is where the highest threat's going to be for 70 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts. And especially if you're, especially along and south of I-70, let's say, and in the red area, that's where the tornado risk exists. If you're in the orange area, I would say still a pretty decent chance of severe weather, but likely more so wind. Okay? If you're in the yellow area, strong wind gusts, maybe an isolated tornado. I think that the severe winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour are a little bit more scattered in nature. That's going to include Indianapolis, that's going to include Columbus, that's going to include Kokomo and Louisville. So yellow area, scattered severe wind gusts, maybe an isolated tornado, but I don't think that's the main risk. Red area that you see here on the map is where I am most concerned, and that will include areas like Vincennes, Terre Haute, kind of along and just west of Evansville, Paducah, Kentucky, Memphis, Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee, Effingham, Illinois. But for Indiana, the line will be weakening with time. I do think there's a better chance for damaging wind gusts. Bloomington, Jasper, Owensboro, Kentucky, Lafayette, Logansport, Valparaiso, Gary. This orange area. So that's kind of the best way that I can break it down right now, guys. Again, I'll turn back on the future radar here. Go back over to the future radar. Timing is the middle of the night. This is 2 to 3 a.m. Activity approaching western Indiana at this point. Probably still severe storms and maybe tornadoes across southwestern Kentucky, northwestern Tennessee at this time. Okay, with all that being said, let me go through. I will try to answer a couple of questions in here and see what I can do. I won't be able to answer every single question. I will do my best to answer a couple. And then I want to get back to the radar in Missouri with the tornado warnings. In fact, while I chat and look at some of the messages, I am going to turn the current radar back on, and I'm going to turn the severe warnings back on. They did, it looks like, not extend this tornado warning near Rolla. So that is some good news there. But a wall of damaging wind starting to get closer to the St. Louis metro area over the next hour. So that's the current radar. That's where we are at right now. Okay, guys. So let me see here. I'm not going to be able to answer every single specific location. So I'm going to try to go through and answer a couple of more specific questions about the system as a whole. The blue dots, guys. So the blue dots, this is the Clarity platform that I'm showing. And so that's a good question. The blue dots are just my locations that I'm monitoring for forecasts on the Clarity platform. And so if you have the Clarity app, the Clarity platform, you can add locations and you can get forecasts and alerts for all of those different locations. So those are just my locations: the office location, my home location, and various family members' locations, so I can let them know when weather is heading their way. So that's what the blue dots are. That's a good question. Okay. Let's see here. Is the marginal risk in Ohio for tomorrow looking appropriate for you? They had a slight earlier. Sure, I will pop up the risk for tomorrow real quick and answer that question. So here's tomorrow's outlook. I would say that this is probably pretty good right now. By the way, very rare day two high risk down here. That's only ever happened two other times, once in 2012, once in 2006. Does not happen very often. And so a very dangerous situation down here tomorrow. I do think severe weather activity across most of the Ohio Valley tomorrow is rather isolated and more down across the Tennessee Valley and the Deep South. Looks like I thought I heard maybe a new tornado warning. I don't see it having populated yet, so I'll keep an eye on that. Yes, I would say that goes for the orange too. When I was talking about the orange in terms of the activity becoming maybe not as severe, still severe, but slowly weakening, I would say that also is the same for Kentucky. Let's see. Do you think they will issue any watches for Lawrence County? I wouldn't be shocked if there's a severe thunderstorm watch for Lawrence County. I think you're far enough west that as those storms start to weaken, that you could get some severe wind gusts out of that. North of Terre Haute in Clinton, Vermilion County, you're right on the line. I do think wind probably the biggest threat for you. But I wouldn't still rule out maybe an isolated tornado or two. I think the bigger tornado threat just to your south and to your west. How much rain in Indiana? We haven't really covered rain, so let's look at that real quick. I will turn on the future rain forecast over the next 24 hours. You can see the heaviest rain is to the south down here across the Deep South, Tennessee Valley, Kentucky. Kentucky's had a ton of rain this spring already. And I would say generally a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch for much of the area. These blue colors, generally a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch, I would say. The system moving pretty quickly in terms of this line overnight, and so it won't linger around long enough to produce a long duration rain. So a lot of this comes all at once. See there's maybe the new tornado warning just north and east of Rolla that's been issued. Okay, I will keep answering some questions here. Let's see here. Do you think they'll issue any watches in Kokomo? I don't. They might. It's really hard to tell because as it weakens, they'll probably wait and see how the line is looking as it approaches. To be honest, it's really hard for me to predict what somebody else is going to do. They might do it just out of an abundance of caution. But it's honestly kind of a toss up. Okay. Day two high risk is extremely rare. I'm surprised they didn't do one April 27th, 2011. Yeah. I was surprised too. I figured that would have been the last one. I think it was mid April 2012. I will say, and I hesitate to draw comparisons to that particular date because of how extreme that it was. But if you look at analog data for this storm system, that outbreak, there are similarities to the one tomorrow. I'm not saying it's a repeat, but I think that's probably part of the reason that the verbiage has been so strong is because of some of the similarities to that outbreak. And so, certainly 2011's been an analog for a while, and it continues to be one. Should I sleep in the basement tonight in Noblesville? I don't think so. I really think wind's probably the biggest threat for Noblesville. Could there be an isolated tornado? Perhaps, but I think the bigger issue is wind. I would keep alerts on, have a weather radio on. If you have the Clarity Weather app, have your notifications on. If you're a business, we do offer a trial for the Clarity Pro platform. It's intended for businesses, so you can consult with our meteorologist. Regardless, guys, just be weather aware, have your alerts on, have things set up if you need to go somewhere. I just think for central Indiana, wind is the bigger threat than tornadoes as things stand right now. Farmington, Missouri looks to get clobbered. Yeah, I think eastern and southeastern Missouri is in the worst spot right now in terms of the combo of wind and tornadoes. All right. Will the winds calm down after it's moved through? Don, that's a good question. Yes and no. We'll turn on the future max wind gust. They won't be severe or 50 to 60 miles per hour, but if we go out through 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, even after the line passes, we're going to continue to deal with 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts for much of the northern half of the Ohio Valley tomorrow. Southern half of the Ohio Valley, 30 to 40, locally 45. But the winds are going to stay very gusty tomorrow, even after the storm has passed. So if you're heading out for St. Patrick's Day activities this weekend, I know there's a lot of festivals and festivities, if you will, going on for St. Patrick's Day from Chicago to Indy. I think they're dyeing the river green. Is that tomorrow or Sunday in Chicago? And so keep that in mind that tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, we're going to be dealing with wind gust of perhaps over 50 miles per hour in some spots across northern Indiana, northern Illinois, and in the 40s across the rest of the state of Indiana. So will remain breezy tomorrow. Morgan County, and I'll go back to the risk map, guys. Morgan County, you are kind of split down the middle. We zoom right in here, just indicating that this is weakening a little bit. I think, again, wind the biggest threat for Morgan County, Monroe County, Johnson County, Brown County. Could there be an isolated tornado? Yes, but I would say all of these areas, wind is the bigger threat. I think that it just becomes a little bit less widespread in terms of wind damage threats once you get into the yellow area. There will be some, it just won't be as widespread as the orange and the red areas. All right. New tornado watch issued for Western Indiana. Let's see what John has here. I think we already talked about that one in Southwest Indiana. What time will the main threat hit Evansville? We take a look at the future radar here. And again, I'm going to speed this up by a half an hour. Evansville, you're looking at, I would say, 2 a.m. kind of for the arrival. So it's well into the overnight, guys. This is the radar at 2 to 2:30 a.m. And so you take this wide view here. You can see storms starting to weaken a little bit across Indiana, but storms from South Bend all the way down to Memphis, Tennessee, actually even further south towards Jackson, Mississippi. Real quick, guys, I want to go back over to this tornado warning because we now have a new confirmed tornado, St. James, Missouri. I'm going to pull up a different radar here real quick so we can look at the velocity and take a quick look at the the rotation that's going on in this storm. And so I'm going to pull up here another radar to show you all what I am seeing in terms of that. And so let me pull this up here. There we go. Okay, guys. So pretty decent rotation here. So this is the observed tornado warning, tennis ball sized hail, to give you some idea of what some of these supercells could produce across eastern Missouri, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, maybe far southwest Indiana. including Evansville, baseball-sized hail, and again, the rotation that you're seeing here. And so what you're kind of seeing here, guys, these are winds moving towards the radar, winds moving away from the radar, and then your rotation is right in between. And so there's your rotation. We can also turn on what we call the correlation coefficient, and we can look to see if the radar is picking up any kind of debris. Maybe a little bit. Doesn't look like a ton right now. You can certainly see these lower colors. Some of that is related to the very, very large hail that is happening with this cell. And so, again, confirmed tornado that is just northeast of Rolla, Missouri, St. James. And then we have damaging wind gusts extending from southern Minnesota all the way down into northern parts of Arkansas right now. I'm going to go back over to the Clarity radar, and I'm going to take a look at the hail sizes right now to give you some idea of what we could be dealing with as these move further to the east. New tornado warning just popped in. Radar indicated tornado, excuse me, you can see just south of Rolla. And again, guys, the reason I'm concerned about this, look at the hail tracks to give you an idea of where this is moving. It's heading, these cells that have been producing these tornadoes, heading right towards St. Louis. And so if you have friends and family in the St. Louis area by, it's 8 Central right now, 9 to 10 Central time, please let them know to be paying attention to the weather, because I am very concerned not only for severe thunderstorm warnings, wind gusts of 70 miles per hour, but perhaps some tornadic storms moving towards the St. Louis area over the next couple of hours. Taking a look here at some of the hail sizes, this may even be a little bit underdone, but we can click around and see nearly 2 inches in some spots in terms of the hail diameter. Billy Schaefer says, just got clarity today. Seems to be good. Thank you, Billy. Yeah, so the team is working on updates right now. Nowcasts, and I'm going to show you a couple of them to kind of give you an inside look at what the team is looking at right now. And so I'm going to go to one of my locations. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to my test location. Excuse me. And I'm going to click out here ahead of these storms. And here we go. So this is a Nowcast that John put out, or actually Tyler put out earlier, kind of giving you the timing of storms. This is the kind of information that the team's going to be putting out as we go throughout the night, giving you precise timing details, precise risk of what to expect. I know the team is consistently putting out these updates. Ooh, look at that. New tornado warning just issued. Funny enough, right where I put my location, you can actually see the purple tornado warning up here in the top right now. You can see all the watches, the advisories, the warnings, and the mesoscale discussions as well. You can also see here on the right, again, the nowcast that's active and the timing of these severe storms. I'm going to give Tyler a thumbs up and tell him that was helpful. And if we click around, I know I saw John just issue a new tornado or a new nowcast. So let me go up here. He's issued a new nowcast up here. We can click on that. This was a little bit ago. Maybe they haven't sent it out yet. I'm ahead of them. So real quick, guys, we do have a new tornado watch that has been issued. You can see they have extended the tornado watch to include areas like Lafayette, Terre Haute, Vincennes, Washington. So they kept the tornado watch right now west of Monroe, west of Morgan County, but it does include areas like Lafayette, Terre Haute, Attica, Crawfordsville, these areas across west central parts of Indiana. Excuse me. Let's see. John just sent a new nowcast to Southwest Indiana. Let's take a look at that. So, giving you all some real time behind the scenes look at what the meteorologists are putting out right now. So, a few seconds ago, John just put this out a few seconds ago. It's timing out the arrival of storms as we work over the next several hours. And so, from now to 10 p.m. Central, storm activity from where it is right now to St. Louis, down towards Batesville in Arkansas. And then from 10 p.m. to midnight Central, we're looking at activity from Poplar Bluff, Jonesboro, Arkansas, Carbondale, Illinois, Mount Vernon, Illinois, Effingham, Illinois. And then between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m. Central Time or 4 a.m. Eastern Time, activity will be moving towards Memphis, Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee, Paducah, Owensboro, Kentucky, Evansville, Vincennes, Bloomington, probably Terre Haute as well. And so this gives you kind of the idea of the time frame of the storms. And again, we note here a few scattered storms may develop ahead of the main line with tornado and large hail potential. And I know that one thing that they will be doing as this approaches and gets closer is nailing down the timing in even greater detail and the greater risk. And so something to keep in mind there with the Clarity platform. Again, if you're a business, I would highly recommend it because those down to the minute details, once these storms really start to approach, can allow you to be proactive well ahead of time. So I I doubt, so I'm not sure exactly what that comment is referring to. I doubt the tornado potential into central parts of Indiana, and not doubt, I still think that there can be an isolated tornado. We've never taken that risk off the table, but I do still think the highest tornado threat is going to be far western Indiana, Illinois, and into the Missouri area. So not a zero tornado threat for central Indiana by any means. I just think it's more isolated as it gets further to the east. I would say mostly a wind threat for the Fort Wayne area. Vermilion County, I would say large hail. I would say all modes. All modes. All right. All right. Yeah, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. When I say isolated, I just means that instead of there being 4, 5, 6 cells that could produce tornadoes, I'm thinking that it's going to be maybe 1 or 2. It's not as widespread. I also think that in terms of the tornado threat, east of the tornado watch area right now, and in the orange and the yellow threat areas, if we go back to our outlook, the more violent, more strong tornado threat will also be lowered a little bit. So the further east you go, slowly the severe weather threat gets a little bit more isolated. It's not as widespread, and the more intense tornado threat will get a little lower, if that makes sense. Your more widespread threat, most of these areas in this red area getting severe weather, and there's a higher threat for a couple of stronger tornadoes. While in the orange and yellow areas, you're probably going to have some damaging winds, especially in the orange area. But the further east you go, the severe weather activity just becomes a little bit more hit or miss in nature, if you will. Hopefully that helps. Do you see anything above a 2% tornado area tomorrow for Ohio? I don't. I think that it's 2% or less there for Ohio tomorrow. I'm not sure what a megastorm means. I've never heard of a megastorm before. It's a very, very strong low pressure system. It's near record in terms of how low it is across the upper Midwest, but it's just a really strong storm system. All right, guys. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to hop back on as these storms approach the St. Louis metro area. I appreciate all of you all for tuning in. And we will be back on later and continue with updates. Be sure, if you're not, be sure to follow our social media pages. We will continue to provide updates as we go throughout the evening hours. Thank you.